Hello and welcome to the second ever Henley on the Water. We're here at Henley Royal Regatta 2023 and it's my pleasure to tell you I've been joined by Olympic champion Grace Prendergast. Hi Grace.
Hello, thank you for having me.
Yeah, thank you for jumping in my launch. It's absolute joy to have you and you are no stranger to this bit of water. Henley winner yourself. Let's get right into it. What does Henley mean to you?
Henley is always, every year I was allowed to come or managed to come, it was one of my highlights of the year. I think it kind of encompasses everything that I love about rowing. Like, you've got amazing racing, but then the crowds are out in full force. The people are loving watching racing. The atmosphere on the bank is amazing. But then you get on the water and you're like, it's intense. It's match racing. It's full on, your nerves. You've got the wind. You've got everything. So I think it just ticks every single box.
So, Olympic champion in the women's pair in Tokyo for New Zealand, absolutely dominated that event for a whole Olympiad. But you have been here and raced the pair. 6-lane racing compared to 2-lane racing. Tell us the difference between this event and an international event.
It's honestly, it's so different. I think when you're up against one person, it's just a different ball game. Everyone is out there to win, so you can't really count out anyone else. You know everyone is going to throw the kitchen sink at you, even if you're the favourites. It's almost more nerve-wracking because a win at Henley is on a lot of rowers' bucket list, so they're going to give it their all. And yeah, I get quite nervous because you've got a lot else to deal with. You've got the steering, you've got the booms, you've got the start, you've got the crowd. It's a lot, but I think that's part of the reason why we always loved coming to Henley, because it was practice dealing with all the pressure and rowing I love, but sometimes you don't have that many spectators until you get to the real pinnacle events like the Olympics. So for us, we got to come to Henley and get the crowds, get the noise, get everything, which was a really good practice run, dress rehearsal for when we sort of turned up at the main event that was the Olympics. We weren't going to be thrown by suddenly having so many people watch. So yeah, it was always a great thing in our build-up.
So you're pretty much saying that we helped you in the Olympics. Thank you very much, very kind of you. And interesting, you talked about pressure there. What does it feel like? We're going to cruise racing today and tomorrow into the finals. They're going to sit on that start line knowing they could win at the end. How did you deal with that pressure on the biggest stage?
Yeah, it's nerve-wracking, and I think I felt that both at Henley and at regattas like the Olympics. But I think for me, I would always come back to it's such a privilege to do what we're doing, and even racing at Henley, it's a privilege to even get to the start line. Like, you've either got to qualify or it's not even easy to race in the regatta. So you feel nervous, but then I think I'm only feeling nervous because I'm loving what I'm doing and I'm caring about my result. So that's what I kind of tried to keep reminding myself, and worst comes to worst and the result doesn't go your way, there's no better teacher than losing. So I think if you take the positives out of that, regardless, you can kind of find a silver lining either way. But yeah, the nerves I think is an inevitable part of it, and especially when in Henley you're so close to the crowd, you're so close to your competition, it's like it really heightens it. Yeah.
That's amazing. And one thing that is also incredible for women's rowing here, the amount of entries have doubled in women's events in the past 4 years. You've lived through that kind of revolution. How important is that for our sport in general?
It's hugely important, and I feel really lucky that I came through at a time when it was just changing. The first year that I was selected as our New Zealand women's pair and the team was coming to Henley, I was a little bit sad because I was like, oh, I don't think there's a women's pair at Henley. And then it turned out that was the year the pair got introduced. And I mean, I would have been so sad sitting on the bank watching my teammates race at such an amazing regatta. So to have all those events included, and then through that more and more women entering is massive. And I think rowing's also such a cool sport that men and women are on quite an even playing field, and it's both races are interesting, and I think you can learn from each, and you can be training partners with men's crews. So there's a lot of crossover. You're not a very separated sport. So to see that coming into the competition is really cool. And then it's going into the Olympics and stuff as well. Starting to get 50-50. So pretty excited. It's a good time for women in sport.
Yeah, it really is. And talking about that crossover, you did a crossover. You came to England, you went to Cambridge University, and you raced in the Blue Boat in 2022. So again, combining the athlete-student combination, how was that for you, and how was the boat race experience?
It was a magical experience. I think I thought I knew what I was in for until I got over here, and I was like, wow, I underestimated how cool event it was. For me, it was always rowing came first and everything else went around it. And then you come over here and you're doing such rigorous study and at like such an incredible university, but then you're also trying to compete in a race that's so prestigious and you really want to win as well. You kind of learn how much you can fit in a day. But it was such a cool experience. I think the boat race is also a bucket list regatta, and once again, the crowd gets out there, and that's what makes sport enjoyable. When you can see other people having fun and everyone tuning in, and win or lose, you're like, this is a pretty special thing to be a part of. So I feel fortunate to have ticked off so many cool regattas over my rowing career.
Well, quite cool race for you to do, winning boat race, a good one on your bucket list. And as we sit here in our boat, we can see how bouncy the water is. We are literally sitting at the finish line of Henley Royal Regatta. What are your top tips for people racing here? You race the pair, very hard boat to race. Go on, give us some nuggets.
Yeah, it's difficult. It's really challenging water here, but I think that is another reason we loved coming to Henley, because you had to not be too fussy. You had to know that it wasn't going to feel perfect and embrace that. So we would be like, you're going to go out there, it's going to be rough, it's going to be bumpy, but if you fight it, it's not going to be good. Whereas if you kind of go with it and you're like, you accept that, it's actually quite nice, I found, because you're not only focusing on how much pain you're in, whereas when the water's perfect, it's flat, you're just like, this hurts. Whereas there's so much else to think about here that your mind can focus on that, and you're like, actually, I can win this race by being technically better than another crew. I loved. But I would say that's the main thing. Enjoy the atmosphere, embrace the bumpiness, and that's why we come to Henley, is to race with all the pleasure crafts going up and down and rolling with it. And I was like, you've got to enjoy it, because that's part of the atmosphere and why it makes it so special.
Embrace the bumpiness. I love that. What a good tip. Let's round up. Tell me, what have you loved watching this week, and kind of what are you looking forward to the rest of the weekend?
Many races, they've all been so great this week. I think I've loved watching right from the Tuesday onwards. This morning I was fortunate enough to do some commentary as well. I advanced into that area, and I commentated the women's four, and seeing sort of the athletes that the Town Challenge Cup, the athletes that I was racing against and always looked up to, with like Helen Glover and the rest of the British rowers, is pretty special, and watching them go out there and sort of put down a really dominant performance was really cool. So I'm looking forward to seeing how that race progresses. And then I always have a soft spot for the Hamilton Piers Challenge. I can't not even tune into that. So I think that'll be a really good final tomorrow. And as you say, piers are quite interesting here. It's tricky water. I think you never know quite how it's going to go. It's a little bit nerve-wracking, so you watch with anticipation.
And we love having you here, I must say, on behalf of Henley Royal Regatta. It's brilliant. Please come back and commentate. Please come back and take part. Maybe we can tempt you back. Recently retired. Maybe we could tempt you back for one last race, Grace?
I honestly think Henley would be the only race I'd come back for, just because it is so fun. But yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I have to get back. I have to get my fitness back.
Okay, well, you heard it here first, maybe, a maybe from Grace. Thanks so much for joining us this afternoon, and have a great rest of the weekend.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.